Sheffield United have actually not conceded a goal in the Championship since the end of August. 6 clean sheets in a row. They are looking like promotion favourites right now, and they've completely gone under the radar. And don't forget, they actually should be 2 points higher, but they're not. They're joint top of the table with Sunderland, and I'm delighted to be joined by, first of all, Jack from his very own Jack Ward Football Podcast. Hello, mate. And Tom H. Williams, 23. Both football analysts, both great content on YouTube, X. Go and check them out. Their links are in the description. Tom, we're going to start with you, mate. What have you made of Sheffield United this season so far? What has impressed you the most? It might be an obvious answer, but go on.
Yeah, I mean, defensively stands out straight away. They're a hard team to beat, as is evidenced by the fact that they are unbeaten, the only team unbeaten in the Championship. Like you say, should be 2 points higher, so they should have 21 points from 9 games, which is incredibly impressive. And like I say, no defeats. 667 minutes of football without conceding is absolutely absurd. And even in the games they have conceded goals, there's only 3 other games they've played, and they've only conceded 3 goals in those games. Another clean sheet in there. So out of the 9 games they've played, 7 clean sheets, which is absolutely crazy to say that. And there's an old kind of saying or cliche about footballers, that attack win your games, but defence win your titles or championships or whatever you call it. And that is certainly looking the case for Sheffield United so far. And I know we're going to dive into all the talking points about them, but what's really impressive about them is that if you look at their team of players that they've got, it's not like they haven't got any attacking threats, and they're simply built on having good defenders. They've actually got some really, really good attackers as well, like loads of star quality for the level. So the fact that they're so defensively strong, complementing that, yeah, it's looking really promising for Sheffield United at this early stage.
I think when all the talk is around, and I think everyone reverts back to the Leeds and Burnley clear favourites this season. Squad's too good. They're proven promotion winners as well. I actually think that Sheffield United are now in that conversation. Chris Wilder, you're off the back of a Premier League season, conceding, don't quote me, I think it's a record amount of Premier League goals, the highest amount ever for a Premier League season. They go down. Chris Wilder comes back. Do you think that Sheffield United fans would have wanted to keep him coming into this season, Jack?
I think it's mixed, because when you have that bad of a season, your eyes turn to the manager, because it was dreadfully bad. It wasn't a relegation of normal relegations. It was such a poor.
It wasn't
season.
Luton, wasn't it?
No, it wasn't. In Luton, it was like they went down, but they gave it a go. They went down, but they were competitive. Sheffield United weren't competitive, and Chris Wilder was the manager at that point. However, one thing that Chris Wilder's got is credit in the bank. You know, he's a very, very popular figure at that football club. Is he as popular? I think in recent weeks he probably is. At the end of the season, maybe not so much, but I think there's a trust there, and I think it also became clear that there was going to be a real refresh. There's going to be a culture change. And after the game against Luton yesterday, Chris Wilder came out and spoke about that culture change, about how there is a different feeling around the club, I imagine externally and internally too. Because when you have such bad of a season, there needs to be something a little bit different. There needs to be new ideas. There needs to have a boost of energy and a bit of refreshment in there. And that's what happened over the summer. Ironically, Sheffield United and Luton played each other on Saturday. And I think you can see two sides to it in the Premier League last season. What was the story coming out of Luton when they got relegated? What was the story out of Sheffield United when they got relegated? It's very, very, very different now. One team looks extremely stale, and the other one looks like it's on a real up.
It's completely flipped. It's a very, very good point. Luton and Sheffield United are completely flipped in terms of where they were as clubs and the perceptions on their manager as well. Tom?
Yeah, 100%. I think Chris Wilder obviously came in half through the season, so had that sort of credit in the bank as well. But yeah, looking at them last season, 104 goals conceded. Talking about one of the worst defences ever in the top flight. We're now looking at one of the best defences so far, well, the best defence in the country so far, and one of the best defences the Championship has seen for a while. Obviously, it's very early on, but if they can sustain this, it'll be such a flip, like you say, flip with them in Luton. But in terms of also style, and they couldn't keep the goals out last season. I know it's a completely different league, but you often see teams with negative momentum carrying that on. Luton, for example, obviously didn't really have that much negative momentum, but they had a stale end to the season last season. This year, very poor start. Sheffield United had a reset. Looked like they were going to have a difficulty of the summer in terms of the points deduction. It's only 2 points, but that can be a fine margin in the Championship. It can be so important. didn't really let that get to them. They made some really shrewd additions in the summer. Michael Cooper in goal, I think, is excellent addition, and hence he's not conceded many at all. They've got really strong players across the pitch. Harrison Burrows coming at left back as well, and yeah, loads of quality, and like Alfie Gilchrist at right back as well. Like, what a sign that is, on loan from Chelsea, who played a fair amount of games in the Premier League for them. So they made some really impressive business. I think they needed to do that because, like we say, there was a really bad feeling around the club in the manner in which they got relegated.
It felt samey, didn't it?
Yeah.
It felt samey. It felt like we've been there before, and look, some of the players that left, McBurney as an example, Norwood another example. These players that have been there for a long time. There's a long list. I think
Bryson Diaz went, didn't he? I think.
Yeah, exactly. We're talking about players that have been there for a while. Basham as well. These are players that have been there and been part of a really, really good success story when Sheffield United first got into the Premier League. But there's a time you move on. There's a time where you hit that reset button. You could hit the ultimate reset button and change the manager. But I think actually with the situation off the field, with the current takeover that's taken its time, having a bit of stability in the manager isn't a bad idea whatsoever. If he trusts that the players are being brought in, that he can coach to a great ability, which clearly he is, then that's absolutely fine. And stability is important, but they did reset, and they're seeing the rewards for it because it feels fresh, and they needed it to be fresh because it was the opposite of that come the end of last season.
Yeah, I really respect them staying with him in hindsight, to be honest.
Yeah.
Shows a real great faith, and actually it's, when you do get relegated from the Premier League, it's very easy to be attracted to that new manager, that new style. But Chris Wilder's implemented a new style, and it is the perfect style to prove that you are a tactically astute manager. Obviously he noticed the amount of goals flying in, and to tidy up the defence, very, very well done from him. Bit of not a masterstroke, it was needed, but a clever thing to do as well. But definitely the right thing. Just 3 goals conceded. It is the least in the Championship so far this season. 7 clean sheets as well, the most. Jack, who in that team, player-wise, are you most impressed by? It's a unit, they work together, but is there one standout player that you think, yeah, I'll have him at Oxford United, I would?
Most of them. Our Blaster one is the one that just stands out. I think he just does stand out for me. I know it's the cliche, I know it's the go-to answer, and I actually think his partner, Suzy Costa, has been just as good, to be fair. That double pivot has been exceptional this season. And Costa has sort of had his doubts actually in the Premier League. I think most of them did, to be honest. Not many of them walked out of that season with much credit. But he's actually looks like a really, really good central midfielder alongside our Blaster. So those two, for me, stand out. And there's been a lot of change in that side too. Michael Cooper comes straight to mind because he was someone that I was so impressed by at Plymouth. If he hadn't have had those injuries that he did have when he was at Plymouth, I think he would be probably playing in the Premier League, and he would have been playing in the Championship much sooner than he is now. Again, you end up sort of reading off that entire team. Still having Gus Hamer, for me, is so important. He was linked to a lot of clubs in the summer. They kept hold of him, and he looks like someone that didn't even play on Saturday, and he's on the bench. And again, you can rotate, you can change, and you don't really see the difference, even though he is a difference maker, ironically. So there's loads and loads, and you make a good point. There are standout players in there. There's Stardust, the Raksakis, the O'Hares. These are pieces of stardust, but as a unit, and that's what Chris Wilder has always built his team on, whether it be a back 3 or now a back 4, whether it be a style of play that we've seen before or the style of play we're now seeing, it's always about being disciplined, organised, and being well coached. And last season, there wasn't any of that. This season there is. So I think as an entire unit, I've been so impressed because there's a clear style, there's a clear game plan in every single match that they approach. And I mean, just look at the clean sheets, and also they do score goals too. We can bang the drum about defensive ability, but they do score goals.
Yeah, for some really exciting goals as well. Some really some high quality goals because of the high quality players they've got.
Hamer free kick for one. Come back to Gus Hamer as well. I think because Leeds were in for him in the summer, weren't they?
Yep.
I think them not getting that over the line could be a massive difference maker come the end of the season. Because I think he's quality. I think he's one of the best players in the Championship.
The best for me. What a player! He's absolutely unbelievable.
Best in the Championship.
For me, he is. Yeah, I think he's absolutely unbelievable player. I think he showed it even in the Premier League. He played quite well, and we've mentioned how poor they were. He's still double figures for goal contributions, which in a team that was so poor is pretty impressive. And he did it at Coventry as well, where he looked a class above the level as well. So yeah, I really like Gus Hamer, and I think he's a slightly different role as well, off the left this season. but he's another one. It's Callum O'Hare, also ex-Coventry, who mentioned how they're quality players, sprinkling stardust definitely, but they're not afraid to put the hard yards in. And Harmer could have easily downed tools after not getting a move in the summer. I've seen plenty of players do that before, but he's not. He works as hard as anyone else in the team and has that quality to go with it. So yeah, really exciting player, really exciting team, and I really enjoy how they have that mix of quality, but also that workman-like work ethic about them, where they're really willing to put a shift in, really willing to work hard for Chris Wilder.
That deduction, I think, was a bit of a boost for everybody, wasn't it? And that's strange. A deduction, but a boost as a collective. It was a bit of it felt like a team effort. It was like, right, we're on the back foot from the start here. We're fully aware on the back foot. On top of the fact, we've just come off the back of a terrible season in the Premier League. So we haven't got much going for us before the first ball is kicked. But the way they've reacted to that is so impressive. And also, you see teams start with a deduction. I know it was even, it was -2. We've seen bigger deductions in the last couple of seasons since they've been occurring. But you sort of see teams get out of that deduction, get back into positive points, start climbing, and then they sort of go, we've done it now, fine. The expectation wasn't that big. We've just, we've got relegated, we've had a deduction. No one's really expecting us to sort of really go here. But that just hasn't happened. They've got back on positive points, they've climbed the table, and now we have to actually remind ourselves they started with a deduction because they look so good and they're in such a fantastic position in the Championship as of recording. So I think admirable is the word I'd use.
Yeah, they would be joint. Well, they are joint top of the Championship. They would be top of the Championship if they didn't get that point deduction. Tom, you've said before how Leeds and Burnley are your shoo-ins or your favourites to get promoted. That was a few weeks ago you said that. In hindsight now, looking on Sheffield United, are they your favourites to go up? What do you think?
They're right in the mix, yeah. They're right in the mix, and I can't remember where I put them before the season started. I do remember a lot of people were negative about them. I think the deduction didn't help in the negative momentum they had. But if you look at the reason Leeds and Burnley for me are right up there is the quality of squad, and Sheffield United can rival them in that sense. And they're keeping more clean sheets than both. Burnley have also been very good defensively, to be fair. But if they can keep keeping the clean sheets, they've got the individual quality to make a difference at the other end of the pitch. Can they rely on individual quality every week? No, there'll be games where they draw 0-0. I know. And one of their probably poorest results is Portsmouth, and 0-0 drawing against Portsmouth, who have looked terrible so far this season, and they didn't manage to score against them. So you have got those question marks, and you can also question the level of team they've played. They have played Watford and Norwich, who are 6th and 7th. But they haven't played a Burnley, a West Brom, a Sunderland, a Leeds. They haven't played those teams, and they've played Norwich as well before Norwich really got going. So they're the question marks around them. Why I'm not going to spring and say yes, 100% they're going to finish in the top 2. But I think the top 6 is without question well within their grasp, and there's no reason why they can't push on to top 2. Because as much as you've got a Sunderland who are exciting, they've conceded 5 more goals than them already. That you can see the frailties in Sunderland. You can see teams can cut them open. Sheffield United, I can't see any team going there, and they've got Leeds next, so that'll be a big test. But I can't see any team going there and pulling them apart because they're such a good defensive unit.
If you can't win, don't lose, right? That seems to be the phrase at the moment. And this Sheffield United team, as of right now, aren't losing, and that they will pick a 0-0 draw at Fratton Park as their worst result of the season. But they didn't lose that game, and we've seen teams that have looked great. Sunderland, an example, they have slipped up in certain games. They haven't looked quite as strong in certain matches this season. But Sheffield United look like it's a case of, right, we might not win every game, but we'll definitely trust our back line. And I actually feel quite harsh just saying that back line because it's a team thing. It's a unit project, that defensive showing. They look really robust. But like I said, they've also got the ability to score goals.
Consistency is the key thing there, isn't it? Consistent. If you keep a clean sheet every week, as they have done for 6 games on the spin,
won't lose money.
Exactly. You're not going to lose any games, are you?
Leeds United and Middlesbrough away next 2 games.
Yeah, that's tough.
Tough, but I actually think they come out of that with 2 points. That's decent. It's not. I'm sure they'd love to be more ambitious, but that's a decent return, and it comes back to that consistency point again. If 2 draws against those 2 sides, you might think is quite unambitious, but then they can kick on. Then they've got Stoke at home; it's a winnable game. Then they've got other games that they can take advantage of. But yeah, no, Stoke Sheffield United, very consistent this season. We've just recorded a tactical breakdown of Sheffield United, so actually tearing apart, and looking in detail about what they do on and off the ball under Chris Wilder this season. So check that out later on the YouTube channel. This week, I'm going to wrap up this video now. Jack Ward's football podcast on YouTube. Check him out, some great content on there. Tom H. Williams 23 on X and YouTube now as well. Jack's also on X as well, but
Don't bother.
YouTube, X, YouTube. Lads, thanks for joining me, and we'll see you next time. EFL shirts aren't always that easy to get a hold of, and that's why we've partnered with the Football League Store. At the Football League Store, you can browse hundreds of past and present EFL shirts for your desired club. And if you use our exclusive discount code, FootballPark at checkout, you'll get 15% off your purchase. Follow your club in style this season by heading to the Football League Store, link in the description.